What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Ah,
Yeah?
I was struggling to show up today.
Yeah? Why?
It's like I think it was hormones to begin with, but I've had a headache for most of the week
Huh?
and stomach, something in my stomach. So.
Pain in your stomach?
No, it's like it's rolling, nausea. But anyways, I'm here.
Sure. We don't have to do talk.
um, no, I'm here. I'll be all right. Like I need to, I think maybe push through stuff and show up in life, right? I've
Yeah.
been sort of struggling with that. Um, you know, pointing out to others where they're not showing up, and then I'm not showing up, so I'm a hypocrite.
Like, yeah, yo, I totally hear that. So let's start off a little bit more professional, I would say. Kind of like instead of just rolling into it like we usually do.
Yeah.
Um, Welcome, guys. I'm here with my good friend Renee. Um, we are showing up here just to have another good conversation about a particular subject that Renee, do you remember what the subject was?
Yeah, blocking ourselves to our spirit, being, soul, however you want to call that.
Yeah. Um, Renee's with Reshape You, yeah?
It's switching actually, so it's now reneeharrison.ca.
Yeah, just her name.
Just me
Yeah,
growing up.
for sure. And I'm from theactivatedsoul.life. So blocks to our spirituality. Wow, that's a big conversation.
Yes. Might be in part.
Yeah, it
Parts.
might be in parts,
Yeah.
but really what I've noticed is first, like the way to start. So the goal is first off to like be spiritual, but what does that even mean? Well, I don't know. What does that mean to you?
What it means to me is I see it now as I'm a spiritual being first in a human body, having a human experience. And so when I'm, you know, feeling heavy in this body or whatever, I'm checking in, like what's going on with me in an emotional state, what's contributing to how I'm feeling, because our spiritual being is of a light energy feeling, and then when we're not feeling that, then I know that I'm in the lie, right? I'm not living based on how my spiritual being would be feeling.
Mm,
So that's what um, when I notice that I'm being blocked to being who I am, my authentic self, my spiritual being, I note it in health issues showing up, right?
yeah.
How I'm feeling today is showing me that there's something going on with me.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I like it. It's very similar. I almost want to say blocks to our soul.
yeah,
Um, and it's mine's very similar to yours, to where except it's almost like a pursuit of values. When I'm not in this pursuit of values, whatever takes me out of this pursuit of these certain values is what's my block to living in my soul and having my soul create life instead of trying to force life to happen up here in my mind with my willpower. And there's things that put us in our head, and it's the funny thing is that it's blocks within our soul that block us to our own soul. Right?
yeah,
Right? That's the interesting part is it's the importance we put on things that actually aren't important from a soul perspective, right? Or from a love perspective, or from a
yeah,
truth perspective. So it's like if I if my soul has a desire, or I'm gonna call it a desire with quotation marks, to feel important in this world,
yeah,
or to look like I have it all together. That is a desire in my soul that takes me away from my soul, that takes me away from the pursuit of the values of love. and truth. And that pursuit is the only thing that creates emotional freedom, that creates like infinite amounts of possibilities of creation, that creates the most joy for the most people around you, um, and real happiness, like happiness that is tangible and lasts, is permanent. But these other things that take us away from our soul create the illusion of satisfaction, temporary satisfaction. Nothing's permanent about it, and it's a constant pursuit. It takes maintenance. It takes maintenance to constantly look and show up in the world in a certain way, to constantly have value in the world, because you have a desire to have to look important, to look like you have it all together, or to have people like you. You know, um, yeah.
And I would expound on that, if I may,
Yeah, please.
even more in the sense of just like for the people listening, those things that block us to our souls, like more often than not, it's an injury that we have experienced in this life. And so, I mean, a lot of those injuries were placed on us as children, but we do it still in our adult lives. We're still injuring each other with gossip and, perception and so on. I have a story about that to illustrate it. Yesterday, my twins in the middle school had a sports day, and I had at the beginning of the day, I had this perception that it was my filter of how I saw others viewing me, or I could feel projection or whatever. And so I was thinking it was, they are thinking this about me, and then it sort of shifted, and I started to notice that their actions didn't match my belief about how I would have thought someone, if they don't like me or they don't trust me or they don't want to be around me, they wouldn't be smiling and coming up and talking to me,
Yeah.
right? So therefore, I had this filter on for the first part of the day telling me that you know, I needed to be feeling uncomfortable feelings in my body, and I needed to be pulling away and acting shy and acting wounded, and what I mean, in my head, and playing back history, old historical tapes, and
Yeah.
what I mean. And I wasted a heck of a lot of energy, and maybe that's why I'm not feeling great in my body today. I don't know, but it's like we do these things to ourselves too that block our soul progression towards love. That's the purpose of being here, is to experience all of this juicing us down here, the good, bad, and indifference, right? All this contrast to get us on that path towards love.
Yeah, most definitely. And I really think a really important part of everything that you just said is how much energy it takes to even avoid things, to avoid feelings. So you
Yeah.
can even see this in a spiritual sense, where someone is trying to pursue love, and so what they do is they avoid all loving actions,
Yes.
which takes a lot of energy, right? So that's another example of using your mind to try to change your life and to change your soul, where the only way that you can actually change your soul to where it automatically does the more loving thing, it doesn't have to spend any energy avoiding, is to work on at the soul level on the blocks to
Mm-hmm.
the pursuit of love automatically, and to do the loving act automatically. And like you said, all of those blocks have a cause. And the like number one most important thing to realize about that is that the cause is always 100 million% emotional. It's not your vitamin D levels. Okay, it is 100% emotional every time.
Yeah.
And when we connect to that causal emotion, we now free ourselves from having to avoid any sort of pain anymore, or avoid any unloving act. So when we release anger towards men, we don't have to worry about our anger being triggered because we freaking released it, right? So avoiding even being aware of our anger can be freaking exhausting. Except every single one of us do it every day, all the time. And so that's what you experience too, which is cool that we could see that at play, that, just to avoid your uncomfortable feelings took a lot of energy, you know?
Definitely did. And it was almost like time stand still in a way. It sort of crawled along in the morning, and but then when I had that shift and I started to feel different, I lightened up, my mood lightened up,
Mm,
and the time went faster.
mm,
Before you knew it, the day was done and we were packing up, and I was like, oh, that didn't go so bad.
yeah, yeah.
Right? That was all right. And people. The other thing too I noted is before that, um, people didn't know where to be around me and stuff like that. In the end, we were all of a sudden just click, click, click. Cooperation just happened down the line, and there was the whole line of us all just cooperating as volunteers, and had an assembly line that just flowed and worked and made everything go quicker as well. And so that's the other thing too is uh, understanding that we're all connected, right? And that life can be like that. We can set that up. We can set up that assembly line of life where we're all just giving to each other and receiving from one another, and passing it back and forth in a flow that works in cooperation, as opposed to being an individual striving and struggling and suffering and thinking that it's just me out there, dog eat dog, right? That's not what this was meant to be. This was meant to be a cooperative place, a playground,
Most
you know,
definitely.
come and experience and enhance one another.
So what was that switch? So you were feeling uncomfortable, and then you said you had a perspective switch. What was the perspective switch, and then what happened after the perspective switch, emotional wise? Like, were you feeling more? Were you feeling less? I don't know. Like, explain that.
In my head, I was thinking that because other adults weren't talking directly to me, that they had an issue with me in my head,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's the lie I was telling myself over and over and over again, and then playing historical stuff to reinforce that lie, right? So I'm like, well, this is what they were like, before, right? And it was like this little negative band was playing in my head. But then the minute that one person turned and addressed me directly
Mm,
in a, nice, cooperative kind of way, then my perception changed.
mm,
And I started to start thinking differently.
mm.
So that's what it was. It was
That's
like
awesome.
it was a choice of thought, right? So I was going down the negative path, and then I went, oh, maybe I'm perceiving this incorrectly. I should start thinking this way,
Yeah.
right? So I made a choice to switch it to, it's not as bad as you think, and just choosing one better thought after another until I was in a better place,
Mm,
and not projecting whatever the heck I was projecting out to them, like an expectation of you should, talk to me, you should smile at me,
mm,
you should, greet me, you should, like I had all these shoulds for people, and that can be really a repulsion. People feel that. We're all receptors. And they can feel that coming at them, and they're like, ooh.
mm.
You know what I mean? Can't talk to her because she's too needy or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Needs me
cool.
to.
What I love is, so like, for two things that I would want to say is, like, what's cool is that you continued your day despite those feelings to allow something new to come in. So instead of honoring those feelings and like just shutting down and then just going and doing something else, you kind of like just kept going with it. And it's almost like a faith that there is a better reality, that whatever I'm feeling right now, my small little personal truth of emotions, like, I gotta stop honoring them because there's a better truth
Yeah.
that's out there. But I need to
Yeah.
work, I need to stop believing these feelings. Like you said, you went through that process. And so I know what's helped me in the process is, first off, knowing that in the moment to keep going. If I'm uncomfortable in this situation, in this conversation, do not leave. Do not find an excuse to leave. Like, just stay, even if it's quiet and no one's saying a damn word. You stay breathing in your body and feel how uncomfortable it is. And for me, the reason why I want to do that too is to almost take in as much information as possible about what the heck is actually going on. And the longer I'm in this situation, the more like things can start moving and speaking to me and telling me what's going on. And then what I would do is later, when the day is over, when things are calm, having that me time where I reflect on all of the things that happened to me today and asked, how did I create that? What's in me that created that? What emotions can I look at that will make the next day even just a little bit better? What emotions can I connect to and release that'll make the next day a little bit better?
Mm-hmm.
What new truths can I find out about what my soul believes that takes me away from my soul that I can connect to?
Mm-hmm.
But like that self-reflective time has been so important for me because in the moment when you're hanging out and the emotions are there, it's hard to be like, you don't know what the hell's going on half the time, you know? You're just continuing your day, you're taking your conversations, and it's not until you get quiet, start breathing, and start asking those feelings to come up and speak to you where you're like, damn, like I just am not comfortable sharing myself around people. People were asking me my opinions, and I didn't want to give them, and I felt like that, you know, I was going to get a bad response, so I'm afraid of people's response, and so you connect to those fears.
Yeah.
Stop seeing them as false expectations appearing real. See them for the illusion that they are, and because they are an illusion, at least having that mental knowledge, a reason to go into the feeling, to not be afraid of it, because a really basic truth that I feel like is so basic and so important to realize is that our emotions are freaking finite.
Yeah.
Right? And like
Yeah.
it's as simple as connecting to them and feeling them that makes
Yeah.
them go away. You,
Yeah.
right? Like that's all we got to do. We don't have to avoid any of it. We don't have to spend so much energy avoiding these things. We just
Mm-hmm.
need to connect to the truth, and just having a desire to do that and then taking action to do that will, that's my guarantee, that it will change your life, it will change your next day, it will start making things happen, different circumstances will change in your life. But I mean, people need to experience it for themselves, right? Like, don't freaking take my guarantee because it's mine.
Well, and to add on that too, I had an aha moment as you were talking because what you resist persists.
Heck yeah.
And so I did not take the time to go quiet later in the evening. I took time to do other things, right? Oh, I had strawberries I had just gotten. I had to process them before they go moldy and
Yeah.
cover, you know what I mean? Oh, I forgot I had to return a phone call. And so I went down the rabbit hole of to-do list, right? And then went to bed.
Yeah, keep
Um,
busy.
yeah, I just kept busy, kept not focusing on the day, right? And replaying that and seeing, exactly where is that expectation of others to play nice with me coming from, right? Why do I keep coming up against that wall, right? And so I didn't. And so now I've woken up and started a day, and I was up at 5 or whatever, went off to work and stuff, and I didn't even want to like play with you today because I'm feeling like I got hit by a truck, you know. And so where is all that heaviness coming from? Where's the pain in my body coming from? It's coming from